this is Harvie S., and we're here at Kolstein's NYC at Harvie's Corner. And this is the new podcast featuring some of New York's illustrious bass players who never really get to be in the limelight. So I'm putting these great people in the limelight. And we have today one of the top jazz bass players in New York City area. And his name is Dean Johnson. How are you, Dean?
I'm good. We're bass players. We're not supposed to be in the limelight.
Well, you are today. I got you in the limelight. So, you're doing a lot of stuff. And, of course, like if people want to go on the Wikipedia or whatever, they can look you up and see the whole list of the amazing stuff you've done. But right now, I'm just going to ask you some questions. What are you doing now?
Now? Well, this week I'm playing at Smalls this weekend with the Hayes Greenfield Quartet,
wonderful.
which I happen to have a record coming out in a couple of months with just duo with Hayes, but this is with a quartet with Jim Riddle and Tim Horner.
Can't beat those guys.
And did a tour recently with Bill Mays Trio, which I have another new record out with him, with Ron Vincent on drums, and we did a Pacific Northwest tour, and we're doing gigs around upcoming Birdland. Coming up this month.
Oh,
September, I should say.
So you're doing that. Any other things that we can talk about that you're doing around town?
Well, I
know you're always working with a lot of different people. I know you play with Paul Jost.
Paul Jost is one of our favorites. We have some things coming up in the fall, Deerhead and things. But it's sporadic. But I do other things with different singers, Kendra Shank and other people I've worked with for years.
Right.
Around town.
Oh, fantastic. Well, those are all really great people and people that I do know and have played with, actually. Great. So, all right, here we go. When you were younger, I'm curious to know, how did you ended up playing this weird instrument, this big, brutal instrument. How did you get involved in playing the bass?
Well, as we were kind of referring to a few minutes ago, I actually started playing bass because my brother's electric bass player left his Fender Jazz at the house, and I picked it up when I was 12 or 13.
That was
started playing. And as my brother got into jazz, or kind of into the Miles Bitches Brew stuff at that time, 69, 70, I kind of floated along into jazz with him, some of my early records.
And what does your brother play? He's a bass too?
He was a guitar player.
Oh, guitar player.
He still plays. He's off on a different mission, has been since the 60s. But,
that's okay.
So I ended up falling into jazz and then borrowing a bass from the high school over a summer, which I took it home the first day, took it out of the case, picked it up, played it a little, put it in a corner, just like I still do today, walked away, and it fell over.
Oh, no. Did the neck break?
Well, the fingerboard came off the neck, but the strings held it on, so it didn't really break. I ended up taking it somewhere later because it was still okay. It was just the fingerboard separated. But,
I just needed regluing.
Yeah. So that was okay, but that was an initial shock first time.
Oh.
But then, as I also mentioned, I was studying, and this is in Seattle. I was studying bass. I took from a guy who played with Seattle Symphony, but also did jazz gigs. So he played electric too. So I did a little of both. I was really lazy about getting the Arco thing together. But and then later on, I found out Gary Peacock was living in Seattle.
Wow.
He had moved back from Japan and went to the University of Washington to get a degree in physics. And he had stopped playing the bass for 4 or 5 years. This is late 60s, early 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, see, that's information I did not know.
Yes, so he was in Seattle. He played piano. He played some piano gigs because he was a great piano player. Kind of played a little like Bill. But so I studied with him a short time, and he was talking about stuff that was way over my head. I was 17 at the time, and he was, so it was stuff that I might have appreciated years later. But he was always a great inspiration, and I loved seeing him occasionally over the years. Then he came back, as Paul Bley was the one who brought him back out from his retirement, and he started back in, and then he ended up with Keith, and had a great career, second career. This is after he had moved to Japan. After
he lived in Japan, I remember, for a while.
And I was there the first time I went to Japan. guy told me he knew him when he came, and he had said he just went off to the mountains and studied Japanese with a monk, and in about 6 months he was totally fluent in Japanese. But I always thought he was that wacko genius type of.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. And he was always into all sorts of different things, macrobiotics and est, and he was teaching est courses at that time. This is early 70s. But this is another.
Wow, no, that's interesting.
This is my early days. This is as a teenager before then I went to school, went to Berkeley when I was 18.
Right. So you went to Berkeley as a bass major. Yeah. And, I think in those days it wasn't now they have a very strong bass department. I don't think it was as strong then.
Well,
they had a few teachers.
Yeah, they had, it was John Neves and the other guy just retired, Rich Appleman.
Oh, Richie, yeah.
And then there was another one I saw recently at one of the conventions. I can't remember his name off the hand. But of course, Bruce has been there for years.
Yeah, Bruce is wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was teaching there at the time.
He was probably a student then. Yeah. So then they had kind of a small bass department.
Yeah.
Now it's, they have a huge amount of amazing teachers there. It's like incredible. But I'm just saying, and when I was there a little bit before you, they really didn't have much in the bass. So that's why I stayed with the piano. But so now, what did you kind of get into like around Boston at Berkeley? Did you graduate or stay there?
No, I was there for a couple of years.
Just a couple of years, yeah.
And then I ended up going up to Quebec City for a summer, did a jazz gig with a couple people that were from Berkeley, a drummer from up there.
Who was the drummer?
Ronald Drouin.
No, I didn't know him.
And Bill Frisell came up and played a week with us. Different people came up and played a week. This is Bill. This is mid 70s.
Before Bill was a big star.
Yeah.
We got to play with
and then
Bill
I moved
Frisell.
back to Seattle for 4 years, and then I moved to New York in 80. So.
Right, and when you were in Boston, did you do a lot of gigs around there? Or?
I was doing some gigs. Yeah, I was playing actually with one of the big bands, Tom Anastas, big band. He died a few years.
What's his name? Tom
Anastas. He was a baritone player, and he had a big band with a bunch of teachers. So that was like a big thing for. I was playing, in a big band with who was I think
Herb Pomeroy was around.
I think Herb played in the band, and all these guys. So that was like a big deal to be playing.
And Alan Dawson was around, and all those people. So all right, now I notice you have a CD and a cover of a CD.
Well, the cover of the CD is it's going to be out in a couple months on Sunnyside.
So tell us about these CDs.
Well, the one was Hayes Greenfield, who's, like I mentioned, is an old friend.
And you're playing with him this weekend at Smalls. Yes.
And this is just a duo CD. We had been playing duo for a number of years. I mean, I was doing tours with Hayes in the 80s in Europe and stuff, and so sporadically over the years. But in the last few years, we've been playing a lot of duo. So we decided to put out a duo CD in this on Sunnyside, and we're going to have a gig at record release Mesro in November.
Nice. I'll try to come.
The other one, Bill Mays, who I've known since the late 70s because he used to come up to Seattle from L.A. and play gigs. And I played with him with the club in Seattle that I was kind of the house bass player at in Seattle, Parnell's. So I've known him forever. And then with Ron Vincent also, trio. And
what tunes are you doing on the CD?
Well, it's called Autumn Serenade, so they're all autumn-related tunes.
Songs.
Yeah, mostly standards and some of Bill's originals. Bill's really still really active, doing a lot of writing, especially in COVID. He's doing.
He's pretty amazing. I remember during COVID he was singing this song. That was really He was playing piano and singing, and I know that he was one of the top studio people in LA. I mean, way at the top. Yeah. Playing all the big things. Because he can
and he threw it all away to come to New York.
He came to New York to play jazz. Yeah. But he's like one of these guys that, you could put any score in front of him. He could just read it down like it was nothing. Yeah. He's quite an amazing musician.
He was on some of the early gigs that I did with Jerry Mulligan.
Right. So, and he played with Phil Woods also.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ron and I and Bill also played with Mulligan a couple times together.
Right.
over different times, different, because
Yeah,
Bill
so-
would come back and sub for the guys he took
that's
over
great.
after him.
So you're going to have the one. What's the name of the one with Hayes?
It's called Lover to You
Okay, well that will be out in a few months, right?
in November.
In November, and the Bill Mays is out.
This is out, yeah.
And
we have some
show it
other-
up. Show on the.
We have some
so
things.
people can
we have
look
things,
at it.
things coming up. Birdland with Bill and Marines and Deerhead and a few other things.
Yeah, I got to
And
come
this
and
is the
catch a
Hayes,
cats. I haven't seen
Hayes
Bill.
thing. We're going to be at Smalls this weekend.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. Anything you'd like to add to the anything you want to say? You get a chance now to say, I've always wanted to say this.
Well, I mean, it's a great opportunity to be invited here and get to see this great shop that I hadn't seen before. I mean, I heard that he had another shop in town because I've been to the Baldwin shop, but it's great to see Barry's got some presence here on 58th Street.
Right, and a lot of people should know that, like, if they want to get a repair done, they don't have to go to Baldwin. You can bring it here, and if it's a small repair, they can do it here. But if it's a real repair, they ship it to Baldwin. They'll do it, and they'll fix it and bring it back here. I mean, this is like, really a good thing. It's a good thing for the bass players and string players to know to come here, and you can get anything, and they have great raws and great strings. You got to try these Heritage strings. They are so good. I mean, I'm serious. They've changed my life. My whole bass is like a new instrument. But anyway, that's enough of that. Dean,
Thank you.
So great to see
good
you,
to
and
see you.
thank you so much for coming. And we'll be in touch. And thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.